Hello and welcome to Lift the Load. I am your host, Claire King, and it has been a hot minute since I've done a podcast. Christmas happened, I was off, I actually took some downtime, it was fantastic. And then January is kind of here and you kind of get back into the routine and you're bubbling along, and the next thing you know, it's the middle of bloody January. And I'm going to be honest, I could safely say I'm quite happy for this month to roll around quickly because it's not my favourite time of year. I am a summer babe. I love jean shorts and a hot summer, and I love exercising in the warmth, and I am not down with cold mornings at all. So this can roll on a little bit quickly, although my daughter is born in January. She has much more enthusiasm for this month than I do. So I'm knee deep in, trying to deal with like parties and cakes and so it were. But I think that helps move it along all the more quickly. And we can say goodbye to that, goodbye to Feb, and the next thing you know, we're in spring. And I feel like that is when the new me would shine. I'm not really new year, new me kind of vibe. It's because the winter isn't necessarily where I would see myself as the most productive. But saying that, right now I'm recording, there is laundry in the washing machine being washed, not just left there, waiting to be taken out and hung up. Nope, it's being washed. And I have a robot hoover, which I've had for years, that is just buzzing around downstairs, hoovering not as well as a human, but doing an okay job. So, multitasking, which is kind of the theme slightly of today, not really, but kind of. So let's get on. But it's messy but moving, how mums can prioritise health without perfection. And I wanted to do this episode because the last episode of Messy but Moving was quite popular. It was probably the most popular one I have done. And I think it's that idea of imperfect action, how we can take steps to, work on ourselves, but it's okay that it's not perfect. I think us millennials, and I've just banded you all in with me there. Sorry if you're younger than that. But, there's like this idea that we should be good at everything. And we should, everything should be in order in all areas of our life. Yet we seem to be doing more than ever as females. And it is absolutely crazy. I often just laugh and I think how different it was growing up in the 90s and what the expectations were from us as children and what our parents did versus us. So it just isn't even an example. And this is kind of a tangent, but going to bed. Now, Minnie King goes to bed late. She has been a terrible sleeper. I've talked about this before, but at least she sleeps all night. But she goes to bed quite late because she doesn't need a lot of sleep. And therefore, we don't really get an evening. And sometimes you put her to bed even late and she still gets up at least once moaning about she needs a drink or her throat's sore or she would like the fan on so she can have some noise or the book stopped in her Audible or whatever, anything like that. And I'm just when I was a kid, we didn't dare go downstairs. We would have to be seriously ill to sneak out of bed and we wouldn't even go downstairs. We would kind of sit at the top of the stair, meek and mild, and maybe be like, Mum, I don't feel very bleh, kind of vibe. That is how it used to be. You didn't dare go downstairs. When you were in bed, you were in bed or in your bedroom. No one really checked on you. No one really cared as long as you stayed in your room and they got an evening and all that majazzy. So even that, something as small as that has massively changed for parents. And therefore, I think we are juggling a lot more and it can feel like we don't necessarily prioritise ourselves. And also, I think we know more now that prioritising ourselves is important. We need to do this so that we can be the best version of ourselves. And not only that we have longevity as well. So January can feel even more overwhelming than just normal life. I think we're trying to get back into the routines after Christmas. There's still loads of things to be getting on with, but then we've also got that like fresh start messaging, and it just puts even more pressure on ourselves. And when we try to be a better self, or we try to put those things into place so that we can try and exercise or eat better or do all the things that we know we should to prioritize ourselves, but it still feels too much. And the pressure of it all means that we try to be perfect and do it, and then we fall flat before the weekend's even out. This episode is going to look at like, it's okay that we only have so much emotional bandwidth. It's okay that our routines aren't perfect and we don't have unlimited time. So how can we put things into place that means that we can do things imperfectly to create longevity? And I get it. Like, I'm a business owner, coaching clients in person and online. I have a child. Like, I've got expectations on myself as well. And that is the thing, isn't it? It's not motivation. I'm a very motivated individual, but sometimes the expectations put so much pressure on ourselves that when we don't live up to those expectations, we berate ourselves, we feel bad, we feel guilty. And therefore, I sometimes think that actually paralyzes us and we end up doing less. That's just me anyway. Maybe I'm on my own. Anyway, how can we help ourselves? Well, I firstly thought that it would be really good for me to tell you something that I like to talk to about with my clients, is that health isn't a light switch. You can't just switch it on and off. Rather, health should be a bit more like a dimmer. We're going to dial it up and we're going to tune it down depending on what goes on in our life. Yes, that means that it's always there in the background. But having a dimmer switch idea, we can think that it is around in the background all the time. It is important, but we are able to adjust it. That some effort counts, and therefore it's consistency over intensity. So there might be times when you can prioritize it more, but that might be when your children are 18. But before then, we can dial it up and down dependent. And it will vary depending on stages of life, what's going on in your life, whether you have more time. When they start to do clubs, for example, that might be a great time. You might be like, oh, I've got an hour. Like, what can I do in an hour? You could go for a run. Maybe you could use the gym, even if it's just you go for 30 minutes, if there's one close to where the club is, or if the club is within a gym, maybe you get a membership. Those types of things. There is going to be ways or times when you can be more intense, and there are other times when you're not going to be. And I find personally for me, my dimmer switch would increase, for example, during the school time and like during term time, but my dimmer switch might dial down during the holidays when I just have less time because she's home more to necessarily work out. So that's just a little bit about that. And it kind of really goes with that whole imperfect action. It's still action. There's still things brewing in the background, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It's not an on, and it doesn't have to be at a set intensity all the time. So I kind of wanted to move on with about exercising. I am such an advocate of people moving their bodies, not for fat loss. I mean, it can help, but it's for so many other things. You know that thing I was talking about, longevity? That and exercise go hand in hand. My husband is also a personal trainer. He just does in person, but he has a client who is 87. She does 2 half-an-hour sessions. And I look at this woman and think, I want to be like you. She's so motivational. Like, she even came to the gym when she broke her arm because she was like, if I stop, I may never start. And then they did stuff together where she was completely sat down, because obviously when you're older and you've got something like a plaster cast on your arm and your arm's not able to freely move, your balance will be slightly off. Steve couldn't risk her falling over, but you could still move and do things with support that kept her moving. And I think if you can look at that and think, wow, that's what I want to be like. I want to be able to get off the floor. I still want to have a great retirement where I'm active and still moving rather than sat in a chair. Then you need to start putting little things into place now so that you can still do those things. Now, what I'm going to give you is like ideas. There's no rules. There's nothing set in stone. This is just some ideas about what you can do. Okay, someone's getting a skip outside. If you can hear the rumble and the grumble, yeah, skip arrived. Anyway, by the by, let's keep going. I've got a set amount of time to do this. We're going to keep on going. So the idea is that there are no clear instructions, there's no permission, but there's ways that you can move that fits around your lifestyle. Firstly, 20 to 30 minutes is enough. If you're super busy and that's all you can give that. Because scientifically proven, the first 20 to 30 minutes are the most beneficial. That doesn't mean exercising past that point doesn't have benefit, but its returns are a lot less than those first 30 minutes. And it can be really easy on how you do that. I find when I've got clients that are particularly time poor, those, and often these people are the ones that are going to work out at home, that I will give them workouts that are timed. They know then that set of exercise will only take that amount of time. There's something about it that takes the stress out of it. EMOMs or ANRAPs, which are every minute on the minute, or as many rounds as possible in a set time, or sustainable aerobics where you might do 30 seconds work, 30 seconds rest with set activities, are all very timed. And yes, the strength intensity might be slightly less in a piece like that, but still going to be work, and you can still build upon that. And now another one might be that you split your Another one might be that you split your sessions across days. So you might look and think, oh, I've got a full body workout here, but it's just too long. It's like 45 minutes. I don't have that time, or even an hour. Why don't you do part of it on Monday and part of it on Tuesday? And then you could do and have a rest day on Wednesday. Then you might have another workout and you split it again and do 20 minutes again. So you do Thursday, Friday, and then you have a rest day. And then you might do an extra piece on Sunday if you feel like it. You're still going to be getting the same amount of exercise. It's a great way. There are no absolutes. You don't have to go to the gym for an hour for it to be beneficial. We really are working with what we've got. Another one, training while something else is happening. This is much easier when you are probably at home, although the club one isn't a perfect example. Kid is at club. Do I need to watch them? No. Sorry, that sounds really mean. Probably not. Therefore, I'm going to go and do some exercise for me, even if it's a walk. I personally think walking is great there, but I also do love strength training. Obviously, I think it's super important. So if you could get a workout in that time, brilliant. Honestly, like I said, if they're doing it at a health centre or sports centre, that's the perfect opportunity. Get a gym membership and do it then. Honestly, thank me later. Go for a swim, whatever it might be. Go for a run. That is a great time. But if you aren't at that point yet, it's not an option. The club is in a hall. I don't know, they do beavers or something, and you don't have enough time to go and do something like that. Or you're like, oh, but I've got a deadline. I must do that work this time. Other things that you can do, or if your children aren't at that age, training while doing something else. Have some dumbbells, have a kettlebell, whatever it may be. Bath time. I've done workouts on the landing. Like they're in the bath, you're kind of like keeping an eye whilst, doing some squats. Dinner, cooking. It's in the oven. Especially if it is like one that you don't have to sit and a risotto. Oh my God, not a risotto, guys. When you've got to keep an eye on that thing. No. It's going to be a dinner where you don't need to keep an eye on, your easy meal that you might have during the week. And that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be healthy. Honestly, you could have some flavored chicken, some potato wedges, and some roasted veg in the oven. Bish, a bash, and a bosh. And then you're going to do a workout in the lounge, quickly, dumbbells, use your kid as a weight. I know I sound very enthusiastic, but I want you to succeed. And sometimes I think the overwhelm, the idea that it seems so hard is what's stopping you from starting. That and not knowing what to do. And honestly, if you don't follow me, you should come follow me at claire.coachingkings on Instagram. And in there, in the bio, I have 2 free workouts. I've got one called the Busy Mums Strength Solution. In that, I don't give you just the workouts. You get emails each week where I talk about the intensity. I give you tips on how you could break that workout up if you need to separate it. I give you how you can make progressive overload. How I give it to you all for free, and it's 6 weeks. So there's somewhere to start. And then if you're really into the gym already, there is a Strong Girl Energy one, which is for like intermediates or like, you know, those that are more used to lifting and have a gym, and that is free too. And exactly the same. I send emails about intensity, what I expect from you, how you can tackle the session. It's not just being left like, here's a PDF, guys, get on with it. So that's free. So you don't have to feel bad. You can access my free stuff. And I really just want to reinforce the goal is not necessarily optimal. Like, I know it sounds really strange to say it as someone who is in the health and fitness industry, who has been a coach for many years now. It isn't about optimal. You are not Olympic athletes. Sorry, I'm sorry to burst that bubble. It's one I've had to deal with myself, but it doesn't need to be optimal. It needs to be doable. Right. Also, eating. Let's be honest, it's the new year. Everyone's thinking about eating healthily. They're fed up of turkey roast dinners, extra sweets and all that majazzy. But I've got to be honest. I don't mind people losing fat. I have no qualms with helping people change the way they look. I do think that having too much body fat can potentially cause more issues. It can be a strain on your knees and things. I am not dead against fat loss, but I am very much against a lot of the diet culture. I only think you should want to lose fat because you really, really want to, for you, not to fit any social constructs. I also think that often by focusing on other things like strength, like exercising, like eating because you want to be healthier, you want to be a good role model to your children, the byproduct will be fat loss. And I think is a much healthier way to go. And that's from someone who's had a very difficult relationship with food over the years. I have been very open and honest about the fact that for 10 years I had an eating disorder, and when I do this and I help people with fat loss, it comes from very much a balanced viewpoint. I don't want you giving up meals or particular foods. I want you to do it in a way that is sustainable for the future. And I know lots of people are like, diets shouldn't be sustainable. No, you're not going to be on a diet forever, but you need key principles that means that when that diet phase ends, that you don't just yo-yo back to where you were, that the principles are there and you have a solid foundation. And I think that is very key. Now, when you're doing this, you don't want it to take over your world. We don't have time for that. I don't know about you. I've got about 50 tabs open. My computer screen looks very much like my brain. So if I've got so much going on in my brain, there is only so much I can think about when it comes to food. So strategies that I use to make sure that I eat well most of the time. And I want to highlight that when I say eating well, I focus on things like protein, vegetables, feeling full, and still having foods that I enjoy. These are all things that are important to me. But what I try to do is eat very similar foods, especially Monday to Friday. So my breakfast is the same from Monday to Friday. It's the same. It's exactly the same. It is oats, and then I actually make it with water, which I know sounds gross. I know it does. I know it sounds so minging. But I Put that on the hob, because if you make it on the hob, it makes it so much bigger and fuller and more of it, which is great because I love to feel full. But then I add whey protein to give it that milky thing, so it's not too creamy. So if I have milk and whey, it's just too much cream for me. So I like to, that's why I have the water and the whey. And then the whey is kind of sweet, and then I use frozen raspberries or berries or whatever I've got in the freezer. I compote them in the microwave, and then I have this sharp, sweet combo. I absolutely love it. Do I mind eating it every day? No, I don't. I love it. I really genuinely do. And it means I don't have to think about it. Like, even if I don't actually track my food anymore, but even if I did, I'd kind of know what the calories would be, because I actually weigh the oats, I don't weigh the berries, and I know what a scoop of protein is. And I know that that's basically what it is. And I know that I'm getting a good start to the day. Bing, bash, that is done. Then my lunches are very similar. I will cycle the meat, but I often have meat that I can put in the oven. Like, during the day is super busy, but I'm lucky that I work from home. So I will have like meat, like a steamer pack, because again, it's quick, it's in the microwave, or like broccoli, which I can roast in the oven, or pre-prep, especially frozen, because I love frozen veggies. They keep everything, like the nutritional value in there, but without like the hassle. You don't have to worry about it going off and all that jazzy. So yeah, pre-prepped veg, and then they can go all in the oven with some carbohydrates. I love a bit of carbohydrate. It might be wedges, sweet potato fries. It might be normal fries. But like, you know, like the oven one based, they're not that loads of calories. Potato is your best friend, honestly. You get so much bang for your buck. You might be like a pre-packed pack of rice. Yes, I'm a lazy ass. When it comes to the middle of the day, I am, because I don't have a load of time. I want to bung it in the oven, and then I want to be able to get on with an activity. Sometimes I put it on a timer. So if I'm out doing one-to-one sessions, I can come in and it's done. Trying to make my life as easy as possible. It takes the bandwidth out. You might be like, oh, that's still a lot to think about. But ultimately, I am circulating between wedges, sweet potato fries or chunks, and rice, okay, as my carbohydrate cell. I cycle between broccoli, a frozen steamer pack, and Mediterranean vegetables. And I often will vary my meat. So it might be like some pork medallions that are flavored, pre-flavored, chicken that's pre-flavored, chicken sausages, or there might be fish. So salmon fillets, or like a lightly breaded plaice, that kind of thing. It's not a huge amount. I just do it on my shop, and it's like, that can go in the oven. Again, now I know that you might not be working from home, but you could potentially think about those things. You could meal prep. Again, it takes out some time. Or I would suggest for you guys, if you're really super busy, is that you just make more of your dinner the night before, and then you can use some of that for your lunch. Make it as easy as possible. I would really like to say I don't mind sandwiches, but this is just with personal preference. So you can tell me I'm a complete arse. That's absolutely fine. Personal preference. I actually don't find sandwiches very filling. I do like a sandwich, but I probably would count that as a snack, just because I don't find them very filling. So that's why I have those bigger meals, because I find that if I have bigger meals, I snack less. And there is a method where you can basically, if you then do like a good breakfast, a good lunch that's all tracked, potentially, and then a snack that's tracked too, because let's face it, I don't know about you, but I can get between like breakfast and lunch, okay? But my God, that lunchtime, because I often have my lunch quite early, my lunchtime to like dinner, oh my God, my stomach thinks my throat's been cut. So I definitely need a snack after the school run. Again, I sometimes have like cereal with protein shake. That'll be Greek yogurt with some honey, some cereal and berries. I might have chocolate rice cakes with peanut butter, just an apple and peanut butter, or I really do like toast, like a slice of toast with peanut butter and banana. It is epic. Don't judge me, it is incredible. But if you then have those three things like nailed down, then potentially you could have an untracked dinner and still make like progress. Because I know the evenings when you're having family meals can be so much more tricky. I personally do love gusto. I'm going to admit it. I'm a gusto bitch. Partly again because our evenings are a little bit chaotic. We have a PT business, so a lot of clients want to come in the evening and it's just a bit more chaotic. Plus with clubs, because Mini King is at that age now where we've got clubs and various different things going on, it's manic. I want to have pre-picked, I want them in a bag with all the ingredients, and I often choose stuff that's healthy and quick. You can literally go onto the Gusto app and look at particular things that you want and things that she will like, because obviously she's a little bit more fussy, that kind of thing. Sometimes I add extra veg to them and bulk them up if I'm particularly hungry, or, if I wanted to eke them out potentially, so I had them for lunch. But I do even think that Gusto do some meals which are like bulk meals, as in not bulk meals as in you're bulking and trying to get bigger, but so that you can use them for lunch or several meals in a row, which is great. So there's kind of some of my tips for eating with less brain power, because I feel like everyone could do with that. If you could then tick off protein with every meal, or even if you did it, well, you probably get it with your evening meal anyway, but if you could do that with your breakfast, lunch and snack, you would be absolutely winning. And that snack doesn't mean you need to be eating raw chicken. Like I said, Greek yogurt, a protein shake, those are great ways to do it. There's loads of protein desserts now. They can be quite expensive though. Greek yogurt is much cheaper, and honey, delicious. So those are just some things to think about. Now, you're like, Claire, but you've not covered the yummy stuff. What about chocolate? I can't live without chocolate. Honey, I would not expect you to live without chocolate. I do not live without chocolate. I personally do like dark chocolate because it gives me more of a chocolatey kick. But I am very much I can now, and I do say this from a place where I couldn't, I now am able to eat and have foods in the house without having to eat all of them, because I don't feel guilty for them. I don't think they're bad foods. I think they're foods that I couldn't eat all the time, because I would feel like shite, as in that's the only thing I ate. But within a moderation, I definitely think they're very important. I like them. I will target them sometimes around my workouts. The key is to realize that if you have a chocolate bar, you can still stay within your calories and you can still make progress without it doing damage to your goals, as long as you don't spiral. And the spirals often happen because of the guilt. We feel bad. We feel like we failed. We feel like it's a letdown, and then we want more. Or you think, oh, I'm only having it today, therefore I'm going to have more of it and more of it and more of it, rather than being stop, take a breath, and actually think about enjoyment. Because I am very much a believer that often the first mouthful, the first bar, the first everything is the best. The second might be okay, but sometimes the fifth, sixth, seventh, you start to lose the enjoyment. And if we stop looking at food as bad, we empower ourselves. And by empowering ourselves, we can then start to identify, are we full? Are we satisfied? Did we enjoy that? Was it a hell yes, I really needed that in my life? Or was it I shouldn't bother? And I've covered a lot of this in previous episodes, so do go back and have a listen. The hell yes principle I did about Christmas, but it applies to life. So definitely go back and listen to that one. It's really, really short as well. But I realized I've been going on for a while. This is kind of deep. It's kind of January. I just feel I feel quite passionate about this. I just think we grew up in a world where we didn't really understand how to look after ourselves. We were told all these rules and they were hard to stick to, and therefore then we felt bad about it, and we felt we were failures, and then we try again and fail and try again and fail, and we're kind of in this yo-yo dieting world. And it kind of come back to the fact that if we sometimes as well step away from looking at everything about fat loss, instead of looking at if I want to repair my relationship with food, or I want a better relationship with food, but I want to eat more fruit and vegetables, I want to eat more protein, I want to fuel my workouts, come from a much kinder place, and it's far more easier to stick to. Now, I also wouldn't recommend that you do all those things all at once. I think if you're particularly overwhelmed, that is really, really hard. Therefore, I often talk about having one non-negotiable, and we build on each non-negotiables over time as they become more solid habits. And they're not so extreme when I say non-negotiable that you'll never, but it might be that you do one workout a week. For me, I work out, most of the time I work out 4 to 5 times a week at the moment. That varies in the summer holidays and things. So my non-negotiable in the summer holidays might be, instead of being 4 workouts, might be 2 or 3. Okay, so non-negotiables can change, but the idea of building up habits over time is far easier. So if I was starting and you tell yourself you're going to eat healthier, maybe instead of that, we're going to just focus on 5 fruit and veg a day, if that's not something you do. Then maybe it's trying to have protein with your breakfast, lunch and snack. Then it might be, I'm going to do 1 workout a week. And then it might be 2 workouts a week. And that doesn't have to be week 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be, it takes you a couple of weeks to get like good with the whole fruit and veg thing. And you're starting to do it now and it's less of a bandwidth thing. You're not thinking about it as much. It's kind of just habit and you're kind of eating the same kind of foods and you're in the groove. Then we're going to add the protein one in. And then you're going to do that for a few weeks. And then once you're like, boom, I've got this. Like, this is good. My digestion feels good. Right, I'm going to add in a workout. And then you're going to do that. And you're going to do that. And you might do that for 3 weeks. 1 workout. And you're like, oh, I feel really good now. Oh, I think I could have time to just do a second one. That might be how you add it. There is no overhaul. I think trying to overhaul your life is where people come unstuck. Now, I really hope you found this helpful. I really, really do. I feel like I might have gone on for a while and a little tangent and you might be like, Claire, shut up. But anyway, I am going to close. But before I wrap this up, I really want to share something that genuinely aligns with everything we've talked about today. The idea of imperfect action, consistency over extremes, and building habits that fit real life. And that is exactly what I'm working on as a coach with Tom Hull, who has created the Reset Group program. There's Tom, myself, and Ishka, and we've come together. So that's 3 coaches worth of knowledge coming together to do a group program that starts in February. Reset is not about punishment. It's not about restriction. The idea really behind this is about rebuilding structure, habits, and training in a way that supports your life and doesn't fight against it. So if you're someone who knows you want to feel better, you want to feel stronger, you want to be more energized, but you're tired of all the nothing plans, the same 24 hours in a day vibes, you're fed up with all that, then this might be something that really could help you. I'm going to be coaching inside the group. There's weekly calls, there's a group WhatsApp, there's personalized plans, a check-in, all those things. And if you want to know more, their link is in the show notes below. But the idea around this program is about doing it in a way that is mindful and realistic, because we all know that many of you are juggling work, life, and family, and you want to prioritize yourself, you just don't know where to begin. So if this is something you're interested in, look down below. And if not, you come and check me out on claire.coachingkings, where I offer free advice. Some of the stuff I've talked about has been in carousels to recap and all those things. So come check me out. And otherwise, I will see you again soon in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Lift the Load.